From an OEM perspective, it's the exchange rate's the bogeyman in the room. So where is that exchange rate going to move to? Because that's going to ultimately really drive your profitability and sustainability and where you can move your prices. And then where your competitors source their product from and what currency they've got. Because if I'm heavily linked into the US or Euro, I'm going to have some challenges versus the yen or the won. So that's going to be a concern for me if I'm in the OEM space. If I'm a dealer, I'm going to be very mindful of what pressures are on my OEMs, because if they are under volume pressure, then they're going to start putting pressure on me, and then I know that my margins are going to start being eroded. If they're very tight from a supply perspective, then I know that I'll be in a good shape for next year. If they've got good new model rollouts, so there's a story to be told, there's a reason to tell people about my business, that's going to be a bullish thing too. And I know my used car business is going to be strong for at least the first half of next year, at least. But I should be expecting some softening towards the second half as supply catches up, and then the change in driver behaviour for used vehicles. But used cars will still be good news all the way through to midway through next year. But just to be mindful that it will tighten up, and I just need to revalue my cars. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop selling used cars. It just means I need to be mindful of my valuations and what I'm buying, because the cars I'm going to be buying aren't going to be as good as the cars I used to buy 2 or 3 years ago, because they're going to be older, they're going to be in slightly worse condition. I would have paid a lot of money for them, but I just need to make sure I move that inventory and I don't get stuck with it as the market starts to go out. So they're the key factors there, and I'd want to make sure that I'm very close to my after sale side of things so I can really engage with those customers, because they're maintaining their cars, or they may be not maintaining their cars, and they should be. And that's a profit opportunity. It's an interesting topic, because if you're looking at, because this is a budget for next year, and I think the challenge is we talked about stuff that's 3 or 4 years away, but it's like, okay, yeah, but that's the longer term. But so for next year, what's going to happen? So if you're budgeting for next year, what's the issue for next year? So EVs are coming, but how much next year? How much the year after? And I think that's one of the challenges, and I think it's ironic. When COVID hit back in March, April, May last year, all the commercial TV stations in this country would have a real estate prediction of a 20% collapse. The real estate market's just going to collapse. We're all going to go broke, and interest rates are going to be super expensive. Everyone's going to lose their job, and there's going to be this massive plunge in real estate values. Well, it's funny, you just don't see any of those economists anywhere. You don't hear boo, because I'm not sure whether the market has said, well, hang on, you predicted -20, but we've got +20. What's the number for next year from an automotive perspective? I think we're fairly conservative, but I think we will be close to the money.
Now, Mark, I think you make a good point there, because when you make a prediction, you make a prediction on the evidence you have at that time. And I think the economists were making that prediction, but then the government support for the economy was huge. And a lot of people did very well out of this whole COVID shutdown. There were people who really struggled, but there were a lot of businesses that made lots of profits. So it was a two-tier economy. I think the reason it survived, and especially automotive, I think automotive did extremely well out of that, because there were certain things that just weren't expected. Didn't realize the impact of having everybody not being able to travel overseas, and then being based in Australia and having that extra disposable income available to spend on cars.
But John, we called it. John, we did. We called it in episode 2. This is what will happen. No overseas holidays. You will spend money here. And we called that the accessory market was going to be fantastic. And once domestic flights start, the rental market would kick in. And we called it that you couldn't get a rent-a-car in Tasmania when we had the Steve Shaw discussion. And now, for the very reasons we've just explained, why Q3 and 4 next year will be a bit tricky for the auto business, is exactly those reasons, because those drivers actually going to kick in the other way. So money's going to start leaving the country. We've bought our cars. The rifle has been shot. We don't need to buy another car for another 3-5 years. So we've spent our money, and we're now going back overseas because we can't wait to get back overseas. And that's where the money's going to go. And then we're going to bring in cheaper labour. We're going to get fruit pickers back again, and we'll then bring in cheap labour for technicians who hopefully would have been EV trained by then, so they can work on the EVs that are going to start to come in as of Q3, Q4 next year. It is going to happen, and the pendulum never stops in the middle. Thank you for listening. We're keen to get your thoughts on where you see 2022 going. Is it going to be business as usual, or is it going to be a swing back the other way like we're predicting, albeit in the second half of the year? Let's see who is nearest the pin from an estimation. We'd love to hear your number. If you like what you heard today, please follow us on LinkedIn, or like us on LinkedIn, follow us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel here, and subscribe to our LinkedIn channel. Listen to us on Spotify, on iTunes, and also please visit our website at autocurrents.com.